Happy New Year's Day, everyone. We have just entered the new year of 2025, and I hope you guys are all having a great New Year's Day so far, and as well as a great start to the new year. And before we start talking about today's weather forecast, I do want to let you guys know that you guys have been supporting me a lot in 2024. One of which you guys got me up towards 100,000 views, guys. That was pretty impressive and very unbelievable for 2024, and I can't believe I was able to help so many of you guys out, so that was definitely much appreciated right there. You guys also got me really close to 1,000 subscribers too as well. I also really appreciate that as well, and I'm hoping that we can at least get a couple thousand subscribers in 2025, so that is definitely going to be another one of our goals as we head throughout this year. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we are going to be going over that potential winter storm at the beginning of next week, which does look to bring that potential for significant snowfall, significant ice accumulation, and it might be devastating. We'll have to see, because things have still been shifting around, and I also like to consider it the windshield wiper effect, where things kind of go back and forth like this, between either seeing snowfall farther north or seeing snowfall farther down to the south. So we still don't really know exactly how everything will play out, but what we can tell you guys is that we will be tracking that as we get into next week, and then after that we will also be tracking even another potential winter storm across the deep south by the time we get closer into the middle of our January, which could bring another shot of freezing rain, sleet, and even some heavy snowfall to farther down to the south, which as of right now I think that's kind of a little bullish, but we'll definitely let you guys know about that, so that way you guys in the deep south can definitely be ready. But let's first start off by going over this ice storm at the beginning of next week, and as you guys can see, we will be tracking a pretty big ice storm around that could bring some pretty big ice accumulation to parts there of southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and as well as parts there of Indiana, as we are going to have that potential for heavy snowfall, especially on the northern and eastern side of that system, some sleet right in between, and as well as some freezing rain. So definitely something to really keep an eye on closely, as this does look to be a pretty big concern overall. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as we will continue to keep you updated with the latest on the system as it rolls on through. And as that continues farther to the east, we will continue to see this move into parts there of the lower Ohio Valley, and even continue eastward into the mid-Atlantic, with still heavy snowfall and freezing rainfall definitely likely across the rest of the Ohio Valley, into the mid-Atlantic, and maybe even a little bit into the northeast. It's mostly going to be south of Pennsylvania where we see that heaviest snowfall, and as well as that freezing rainfall impacts. But we'll definitely continue to watch it very closely, especially as it continues to head off the coast, and that's mainly going to be by the time we get into beginning of next week, where we're definitely going to have to continue to watch that storm very closely. Now let's start talking about how much snow, how much freezing rain, and perhaps even just how much ice we are going to see by the time we get throughout the beginning and as well as the middle of next week. So from now all the way to the middle of next week, especially the beginning of next week, is where we're going to be seeing that potential for a lot of snowfall, anywhere from eastern Nebraska down there into northern Missouri, southern Iowa, central Illinois, central and southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, back over there into Ohio, and maybe even as far east as West Virginia and Pennsylvania could be at risk for some pretty heavy snowfall. And if we compare that to the European model, it does not show it as at an angle, because if we go back one, see how the GFS model is showing that snowstorm pretty much heading southeastward from Nebraska, but with the European model though, you guys can probably tell right there that we are seeing that snowfall anywhere from northeast Kansas all the way through the mid-Atlantic, so more at a horizontal angle compared to what the GFS model was showing. Like I said, because you guys can probably just tell right there that this is more at an angle compared to what the European model is showing. So definitely make sure you guys are keeping an eye on this winter storm very closely, as places like Evansville, Louisville, Cincinnati, back over there into St. Louis, Kansas City, Missouri, and as well as those areas even up there towards Des Moines, especially when looking at the GFS model, is going to be at risk for some heavy snowfall, like I said. So we definitely got to watch all of those areas very closely, as we could be seeing some areas getting close to a foot, but that still remains uncertain though, as both of them show a little bit of a different track, but still shows a foot of snowfall in some of those areas, which is definitely good agreement. And then if we also talk about how much freezing rain to expect with this system, starting off with the European model this time, this does want to show a pretty devastating ice storm anywhere from eastern Kansas all the way back over there into the mid-Atlantic, with widespread amounts over a quarter-inch, as places like Evansville, Louisville, back over there in southern Illinois, even parts there in Missouri, including the St. Louis area, back over there into central Missouri, especially around the Columbia area, and as well as into Kansas City, and as well as into parts there of Kansas. We'll need to really watch this system very closely, and I mean, you don't even need a half an inch of freezing rain to really get some devastating impacts, as widespread power outages can even occur whenever there's a quarter to a half an inch of freezing rain. So all you need is just a quarter of an inch for there to really be some significant impacts, but unfortunately we could be talking more than that, as even the GFS model is even showing some pretty good amounts of freezing rain as we get into the beginning of next week, pretty much across those same areas, maybe a little bit far down to the south, as the European model kept it north of Arkansas. GFS model wants to dip a little bit of ice potential in northern Arkansas. Otherwise, it's actually about the same. So I definitely do think we are coming into a little bit more of an agreement between seeing this much snow and this much ice. But once again, things could still change, as we are still heading about 3-4 days out from now. But like I said though, it's definitely at the point to where we need to watch this very closely, especially as we get into the weekend, because that's when we'll know what to expect. So make sure to be on high alert if you live in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and as well as the Mid-Atlantic. Now let's also talk about your ice impacts, just in case like you're new here to the channel, and if you don't really know exactly what each amount of ice does. I did explain this in the last few videos, but like I said, if you guys haven't gotten an idea on how much ice does what, and the main amount of ice that we could be talking about is anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch of freezing rain, which like I said, that is enough to cause widespread power outages. That also is enough to down trees, extremely dangerous to walk or drive on untreated surfaces that will be covered in ice. So that is definitely not good news, as like I said, a lot of areas are definitely looking at anywhere from a quarter to a half an inch of freezing rain, which once again, that is enough to really cause some devastating impacts right there. And of course, some areas might even see a little over a half an inch of freezing rain. So even if you don't make it up to an inch, 0.6 inches of rain, which is a little over a half an inch, is still enough to cause widespread power outages. That also is enough to even extend power outages for more time, and that also is enough to down trees and also cause impassable roadways. So definitely not good news right there for you guys, as like I said, a lot of freezing rain is definitely looking to be on the possible side of things, and that's why we are going to continue to watch this very closely. And then the next winter storm that we are going to be tracking is going to be this next one as we get into later next week, or even into the middle of January, January, perhaps, as we will be tracking a pretty big winter storm down there, pretty much heading off of the northwest, and that's just going to dip southeastward into Texas. And I know it doesn't show that, but before I chose this, it did show that going from northwest all the way back down there into Texas, and that does look to bring even the potential for heavy snow, freezing rain, and even some sleet as this system continues eastward, as Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, you guys could definitely get a lot of snow out of this system. And the good news is that that freezing rain could die down, but we still are going to be dealing with that potential for heavy snowfall, guys, across even the Atlanta area by the time we get into Friday, January 10th. So definitely something to watch for even as we get into later next week. But this storm is more uncertain than what we're going to be tracking at the beginning of next week. So obviously take this system with a grain of salt still, as we are heading over a week out from now. As I said, it's going to be later next week, and we haven't even gotten to the end of this week yet. So obviously something to watch for, but not something to really get your hopes up on, as things, like I said, are looking to change a lot as we are heading over a week out from now. And then the next thing that we are going to be watching for is another potential polar vortex that could roll on through by the time we get into later this weekend, as we're just going to see shot after shot after shot of cold air rolling on through, which this first one is going to bring some pretty well below average temperatures to the northern United States, especially around the Dakotas, and that will just continue southeastward, still bringing even another shot of cold air. And what's crazy is that the Ohio Valley might be the bullseye for seeing the most below average temperatures, and maybe even parts there of the Midwest too as well. So we'll definitely watch that as we get into later next week. And then even another cold shot rolls on through by the time we get into the beginning of after next week. So this is pretty much going to be after next week on Sunday, January 12th, which is about 10 days out or so. So obviously not certain that we'll see this, but temperatures actually are a little bit more accurate on the models. So I can at least say that we will be seeing that potential for a huge cold shot by the time we get into that time frame. But as of right now, though, we are still hanging far enough out to where some things may change with these temperatures. But like I said, usually when you look at temperatures with the models, temperatures do appear to be a little bit more accurate than them predicting like snow or anything like that long range. So something to keep an eye on very closely as we get into the middle of January, like I said, as cold shot after cold shot after cold shot is definitely looking possible. And then the final things we're going to take a look at is your total rain, total snow, and as well as your total freezing rain. Starting off with your total freezing rain, this is anywhere from now all the way to January 12th, including that ice storm that we're expecting at the beginning of next week, and as well as that deep south ice storm as we get into the end of next week, as we could be seeing some pretty big ice amounts. And I'm just going to say, it looks like a lot of models are coming into agreement with anywhere from a quarter of an inch to maybe even a half an inch of freezing rain, especially where you see those dark pink colors right there. So this is definitely not good news for you guys in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, and as well as Missouri, as models are kind of agreeing on around a tenth of an inch of freezing rain. And this is pretty much adding all the models together. So this is definitely looking a little bit more concerning as more models are coming into agreement about seeing an ice storm across that area. And then for your total rainfall, we will be tracking a lot of rainfall across the northwest, as areas in the northwest are definitely going to continue to see those risks for atmospheric river events by the time we get into the next few weeks. And same goes over here across the east, where we're just going to be seeing storm after storm after storm roll on through. So something to continue to watch closely for, as even the deep south, especially these areas along the Gulf Coast, will be tracking some rain and even some storms with some of those systems as they roll on through. So definitely something, like I said, to really watch closely for, as things are definitely looking concerning. And the last thing is your total snowfall, as we will be tracking a lot of snowfall across the higher elevations. And not only that, we also could be seeing a lot of snowfall across the Ohio Ohio Valley and as well as the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, as some of these areas are actually having some pretty good model agreement on around a foot to even 2 feet of snowfall, especially around Erie, Watertown, back over there into West Virginia, with maybe even around a half a foot of snowfall occurring across Illinois, Indiana, northern Kentucky, and as well as Ohio. So that is definitely on the concerning side of things too, as well, as more models are coming into agreement. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy today's weather forecast. I know that was a long update, but we did have a lot of things to talk about. So consider subscribing, as we will continue to keep you updated with the latest, and as well so that you can stay informed about the weather, as that potential ice storm could be on the dangerous side of things. So make sure to subscribe if you have not done that already. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up as well. Those help out more than you know. And of course, leave any questions, comments, or concerns that you guys have down below. Feel free to leave anything down below, and I'll get to those in just a second. And I hope you guys all have a great start to the new year, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.